A young woman counted pennies in a dim office, trembling hands sorting coins that wouldn't pay her rent. She didn't know that 200 motorcycles were already gathering on the highway, engines warming in the pre-dawn light, ready to ride for her. Isabelle Novak sat at the scarred wooden desk, shoulders hunched against the cold that seeped through the cracked window of the waterfront office. 24 years old, thin as hunger itself, wearing a blouse mended so many times the thread created constellations across the fabric. Her fingers moved mechanically through the stack of invoices, filing and sorting, invisible labor for men who never looked her in the eye. The building groaned with the weight of its own decay. Water stains bloomed across the ceiling like dark flowers. The fluorescent lights buzzed and flickered, casting shadows that made the small space feel even smaller, more suffocating. She'd taken this job 3 months ago, desperate after her father's death left her with medical bills that swallowed everything. The salary was barely minimum wage, but it was something. A lifeline, however frayed. Marco Battaglia owned the import company, a legitimate front for less legitimate enterprises. His son, Dante, managed the office with the cruelty of someone who'd never been told no. 28, handsome in a sharp-edged way, he moved through the building like he owned not just the space but everyone in it. Isabelle heard his footsteps before she saw him. Heavy boots on old floorboards, the sound of someone who wanted to be heard, wanted to inspire fear. He appeared in her doorway, expensive suit jacket draped over his shoulder, gold watch catching the dim light. His smile was all teeth, predatory and cold. "Working late again, little mouse," he said, voice dripping with false sweetness. She kept her eyes on the papers. "Just finishing the filing, Mr. Battaglia. How many times do I have to tell you?" He moved closer, his presence filling the small office. "Call me Dante. We're practically family here." The word twisted in the air between them, a mockery. She said nothing, fingers tightening on the invoice in her hand. He leaned against her desk, deliberate invasion of space. "You know, my father thinks you too skinny. Says you make the company look cheap, hiring girls who can't afford to eat." His hand moved to her shoulder, fingers pressing down. "Maybe we need to discuss your compensation package." Isabelle flinched, pulling away. "I should go. It's late." His hand tightened, holding her in place. "I'm talking to you. It's rude to walk away when someone's talking. Please." Her voice barely a whisper. "I just want to do my job." Something ugly crossed his face then, anger at being denied something he believed he deserved. He shoved her chair backward, sudden violence that made her gasp. Papers scattered across the floor like frightened birds. "Pick them up," he commanded, voice now stripped of pretense. "On your knees. Pick them up." Tears burned her eyes, but she wouldn't let them fall, not in front of him. She knelt, gathering papers with shaking hands, humiliation burning through her chest like acid. Dante stood over her, satisfaction radiating from him. "That's better. Know your place, little mouse." He straightened his jacket, smoothed his hair. "Lock up when you're done. And Isabelle?" He paused at the door. "Wear something prettier tomorrow. That rag makes you look like a beggar." The sound of his laughter echoed down the hallway, fading as the building's front door slammed shut. Isabelle remained on the floor, surrounded by scattered papers, body trembling with shock and rage and helpless fear. She didn't know that across town, in a dimly lit bar called the Iron Horse, her older brother Jonas was finishing his second beer. Didn't know he'd recently joined a motorcycle club after leaving the military, seeking brotherhood among men who understood loyalty and protection. Didn't know that when she finally gathered the courage to call him that night, voice breaking as she described her humiliation, something ancient and righteous would awaken in that bar. Jonas Novak listened to his sister's tears through the phone, his jaw tightening with each word. Around him, leather-clad brothers fell silent, reading the fury building in their newest member's face. When he ended the call, he looked up at the man they called Warden, the club's president, a bear of a man with gray in his beard and eyes that had seen too much. "I need help," Jonas said simply. "My baby sister." Someone put his hands on her. Warden's expression didn't change, but something shifted in the room. "Tell us," he said. The gathering happened like wildfire spreading. Phone calls in the night. Messages passed through a network of brothers that stretched across 3 states. By dawn, motorcycles lined the street outside the Iron Horse, machines gleaming in the early light, exhaust rumbling like thunder blessing the earth. Isabelle arrived at the office Monday morning, dread sitting heavy in her stomach. She'd barely slept, mind replaying Friday's humiliation, wondering if she should quit, knowing she couldn't afford to. The bills wouldn't stop just because her dignity had been shattered. The building was quiet, early morning stillness broken only by her footsteps on the stairs. She unlocked the office door, set down her worn purse, prepared herself for another day of invisible suffering. The sound reached her first. A distant rumble, growing louder, closer, impossible to ignore. She moved to the window, confusion creasing her forehead. The street below transformed before her eyes. Motorcycles appeared, one after another, filling the narrow waterfront road. Riders dismounted, leather and chrome and faces marked by weather and time and battles won. They moved with purpose, coordinated and calm, surrounding the building like an army taking position. Isabelle's breath caught. In the center of the formation, she saw Jonas. Her brother, tall and solid in his cut, patches declaring his allegiance to the Hell's Angels. Their eyes met through the window, and he nodded once, a promise kept. The office door burst open. Dante Battaglia stormed in, face flushed with anger. "What the hell is going on out there? Who are these?" He stopped. Jonas stood in the doorway, flanked by Warden and 4 other riders, men whose presence seemed to compress the air itself. "You Dante Battaglia?" Warden's voice was quiet, controlled, more terrifying for its calm. Dante's bravado faltered. "This is private property. You can't just answer the question." "Yes, I'm Dante Battaglia. My father owns this building, and you're trespassing." Jonas stepped forward, and Dante actually backed up. "That's my sister," Jonas said, pointing to Isabelle. "You remember her? Girl you put your hands on. Girl you humiliated. Made her crawl on the floor like a dog." Color drained from Dante's face. "I don't know what lies she's been telling," but Warden held up one hand, silencing him. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to this young lady. You're going to write her a check for 6 months' salary. Then you're going to call your father and explain why his business is currently surrounded by 200 very concerned citizens." "You can't threaten me. My father, your father," Warden interrupted, "is currently sitting in his restaurant, having coffee with 3 of my brothers. Nice man. Very concerned about his son's behavior. Seemed to think we should handle this internally, family business, as he put it." The lie was visible on Dante's face, the realization that his father wouldn't protect him from consequences, that perhaps his father had sanctioned this correction. His hands trembled as he pulled out his checkbook. "Say it," Jonas commanded. "Apologize." Dante's throat worked. He looked at Isabelle, really looked at her for the first time, seeing not a possession but a person whose brother commanded an army. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "What I did was wrong. It won't happen again." "Louder," Warden said. "I'm sorry." Dante's voice cracked. "I'm sorry for hurting you, for disrespecting you. I was wrong." He wrote the check with shaking hands, pressed it into Isabelle's palm. $6,000. More money than she'd seen in years. Warden gestured to the door. "You'll resign today, effective immediately. And Dante, if we hear you've bothered this girl again, if we hear you've bothered any woman, we'll have another conversation. Won't be as pleasant." They left him there, diminished and defeated. Jonas wrapped his arm around his sister's shoulders, guided her down the stairs where 200 brothers waited. They parted for her like the Red Sea, each man nodding respect as she passed, acknowledging her dignity, her worth. The ride to Jonas's apartment was a slow procession, motorcycles surrounding the car he'd arranged for her, protective and proud. In the parking lot, Warden approached, removed his gloves. "You need anything," he said to Isabelle. "You call your brother. He's family now. That means your family too. Nobody touches our family." She found her voice finally, though it trembled. "Thank you. I don't know how to repayment needed. Just remember your worth. Don't let anyone make you feel small again." The weeks that followed brought transformation. Isabelle used the money to clear her father's medical debts, found work at a law firm where her intelligence was recognized, her contributions valued. She walked taller now, carried herself with quiet confidence born from knowing she wasn't alone. Dante Battaglia left town, his father having made it clear that certain behaviors carried consequences even blood couldn't erase. The waterfront office closed, investigation revealing financial irregularities that suggested the Battaglia family had larger problems than one son's cruelty. On Sunday afternoons, Isabelle joined Jonas and his brothers at the Iron Horse, no longer a victim but a sister, protected and cherished by men who understood that true strength meant defending those who couldn't defend themselves. She learned that family wasn't always blood, that sometimes it was chosen, forged in loyalty and sealed with thundering engines and unbreakable bonds. In the quiet moments, she remembered that day, the sound of motorcycles surrounding a building where she'd been made to feel worthless. Remembered the look on Dante's face when he realized his power was illusory. That real power belonged to those who stood for something larger than themselves. The memory no longer brought shame but pride, proof that cruelty could be answered, that justice sometimes arrived on two wheels, leather-clad and righteous. If you have enjoyed this story, tell YouTube to send you more stories like this by subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and leaving a comment.